I never looked like my parents, and I noticed that even before people pointed it out. My mom always told me I had special genes, but as I got older, the jokes stopped being funny because their answers felt like they were hiding something. We didn't have baby pictures of me before I was 2, and there were no stories about the hospital or my first steps. So when I asked, they just said I was a quiet baby or they didn't take many pictures back then. But it was weird because we had tons of photos from trips, birthdays, and holidays, just nothing from when I was really little, and that quiet grew bigger as I got older. One night in my last year of high school, I was at my friend Matt's house, and we watched a show where a guy took a DNA test and learned his dad wasn't his real dad. Matt laughed and told me to imagine finding out my whole family was fake, and everyone else laughed too, but I didn't. Later, I asked him if he'd ever take a DNA test, and he shrugged and told me he wouldn't because if your family treats you good, you don't need to dig for secrets. I told him he was probably right, but that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I started looking up on my phone things like how to tell if you're adopted or signs your parents are hiding something. I didn't buy a test, but I thought about it every single day. One week before I was supposed to leave for college, my parents sat me down, and my mom looked like she'd been crying, but my dad stood by the window with his arms crossed like he couldn't sit still. She told me they thought it was time I knew, and I already felt it inside because she told me I was adopted. They tried for years to have a baby and went to doctors, but it didn't work. So they adopted me, and they told me it was their happiest day. My dad told me I'd always been their son, and nothing changed that. I thanked them and even smiled. But the moment I went to my room, I opened my laptop and applied to a college on the other side of the state. They thought I was going to the one we visited, but I wasn't. And starting over felt good because no one knew who I was, and I didn't have to answer questions or pretend I was okay. A few days into my first week, I went to this random house party near campus. It was loud and chaotic, but it was exactly what I needed. I found a quiet spot in the kitchen, and that's where I met her. She wasn't a student there, but she was visiting a friend for the night, and she was almost done with high school. We talked for hours, first about music and school and dumb stuff, but then she told me her mom died from cancer a few months ago, and I told her I just found out I was adopted, and somehow it felt okay. We started talking every day after that, and then we hung out, and soon we were together, and it got serious fast. 2 months later, she came to my dorm one night and didn't knock, but she put a small bag on the sink, so I followed her to the bathroom. Inside the bag was a pregnancy test, and it was positive. I didn't even have time to say anything, so we sat on the floor quiet, but she rested her head on me and told me we should tell our families. I was scared, but I agreed because she was the only person who made me feel like I belonged, and I wasn't going to run from that. We planned a simple dinner with her, me, and our parents, and I called my dad first, but he sounded weird as soon as I brought it up and told me he had a work thing that night and couldn't come. My mom took the phone and told him he was missing me becoming a dad, and I told her it was fine because her mom was gone, so it might be better with just her. He and I will schedule something with dad, but later, and she said yes, but she wasn't happy, and I didn't blame her, but I just wanted the night to go smoothly. The night of the dinner, we picked a quiet restaurant and we got there early, me, her, and my mom, but when the door opened, she stood up fast and told her dad to come over with a big smile. I turned to look and my entire body froze. It was my dad, the one who said he was busy, and he stopped when he saw me. I stood up and asked him why he was there, and she looked at me and said,
"That's my dad."
My mom's smile disappeared and her shoulders dropped like someone had punched the air out of her. Then she turned slowly toward me like she was trying to understand what she was seeing. But my girlfriend looked at her, still smiling, completely unaware, and told her,
"Isn't he great? That's my dad."